A new report has revealed that Apple is essentially failing in China, and a lot of people are talking about it, so we should as well. As you can see from this headline, Apple iPhone sales fall 24% in China amid competition and headwinds. iPhone sales dropped 24% in the first 6 weeks of 2024, according to a new report, adding to significant problems for Apple and other Western tech companies in a crucial market. And obviously, any bad news that comes out like this causes the stock price to go down. This news came out on the 5th, and as you can see, on the 5th, the stock price immediately dropped about 2.3%, but it's been on a downward decline this whole week. And actually, it's been a rough couple of months for Apple as well, as this kind of decline and hit after hit of iPhone sales falling in other countries, they just keep coming. CNN isn't the only person with kind of this doom and gloom title. If you look up Apple falling sales China, basically every major publication is talking about the sales plunge and the China plummet by 24% in sales, declining. Everyone and their mom is discussing Apple and the failure of the iPhone in China as if it's going to cause some huge issues for Apple as a company. And to be fair, it very well might. But it's also worth knowing that this does not tell the whole story of what is going on. So I want to go straight to the source with you and talk about this, which is the actual report. And I also want to talk about the reasons that this is happening and also why this is bad for Apple. So this is Counterpoint Research who put out this report, and this is what they specialize in, is tech reports put out, I think, monthly from tech companies around the world and how they're doing in various countries. China's smartphone sales fall 7% year over year in the first 6 weeks of 2024, double-digit declines for Apple, Oppo, and Vivo. So right off the bat, we can see that the headlines have been a bit deceiving because it's not just Apple that's seeing these huge declines. It's also the other major phone retailers in China, Oppo, Vivo. And then there's some others listed down here as well. You can see Oppo going down. This is the logo for Xiaomi, which is another budget phone maker. Then there's Apple at 24%. Only Honor went up, except they pretty much exactly say the same. So pretty much only Huawei went up, but Vivo went down as well. The entire smartphone market in China is having a slowdown right now. So to single out Apple as the big company that's failing when other companies are also failing proportionally, and some like Oppo are failing even more, is kind of disingenuous to the point of the report. I want to read the first part of this report because it's very important. China's overall smartphone unit sales declined 7% year over year in the first 6 weeks of 2024, with key vendors like Apple, Oppo, and Vivo seeing double-digit declines according to Counterpoint Research's latest China Smartphone Weekly Sell-Through Tracker. Apple's iPhone struggled during the first few weeks of the year for several reasons. Primarily, it faced stiff competition at the high end from resurgent Huawei while getting squeezed in the middle on aggressive pricing from the likes of Oppo, Vivo, and Xiaomi, said senior analyst, good luck with that name, adding, although the iPhone 15 is a great device, it has no significant upgrades from previous versions, so consumers feel fine holding on to older generation iPhones for now. Now, there are more reasons other than the ones listed here as to why the entire smartphone industry in China is having a bit of a slowdown, and we'll get to those in just a sec, like China's economic issues and so on, but mainly it's competition. So if you want something that feels really premium, you can go with Huawei, which is a very high-end smartphone company that is based out of China. But if you want something that's cheap, you could go with Vivo or Oppo or Xiaomi. Apple's kind of being beaten at both ends. If you want a high-end phone as a Chinese person, you'll probably want to go with Huawei. And if you want a cheaper, more affordable phone, then you probably want something like Oppo. Apple's not in a position where it does either the highest end stuff with the best specs like Huawei or has smartphones affordable enough for people that want cheaper options. It's kind of in this awkward middle ground where nobody really seems to want it right now. This competition issue where Apple is essentially being beaten on pricing leads us well into the second reason that Apple's not doing so hot in China, and that is the pricing. Apple to offer rare discount on iPhones in China. This is from January 15th, 2024, so this would have been within the 6 weeks that the research from Counterpoint talked about. Ever bought a discounted iPhone from Apple? For most people, the answer is no. That's because Apple doesn't really do discounts. But in China, Apple is slashing the price of some of its latest iPhones by $70 amid worries that Chinese consumers have cooled on the brand. That would save a buyer about 6 to 8% based on prices on Apple's China website. It has also knocked $112 off the price of some MacBook Air laptops. The sale will start Tuesday and run through Sunday. Cutting prices on high-end electronics to buyers in China is an unexpected move for Apple, one that highlights the challenges the American company faces in China, where patriotic shoppers are choosing domestic brands amid rising US-China relations. Apple and its Chinese rival Huawei are on the front lines of the battle over technology between Beijing and Washington that has seen both countries restrict access to foreign technology. Long suspicious of Huawei's close ties to the Chinese government and wary that its technology could be used for spying, American officials have stopped federal agencies from buying equipment from Huawei and tried to discourage other countries as well. China, for its part, has issued directives to some of its government employees not to use iPhones at work and encourage domestic brands. So basically, Apple and Huawei are both suffering as they're the pawns on the front line of this battle between the US government and the Chinese government, each wanting to get the economic and also information-based upper hand on the other. Now, there's a third reason I'm about to talk about, but because this gets kind of complicated, I want to recap and make sure we've got the first two down. So the first reason is that there's competition amid a slowing down market that is impacting not just Apple, but most of the other phone makers as well. And the second reason that Apple's not doing so hot in China is that the government is restricting sales on foreign phones, impacting Apple's sales in China. And the third reason that Apple's not doing so well, I'm kind of going to bundle two together, and that is economic concerns in China and also just patriotism. China's consumer prices declined for a fourth straight month in January, while producer prices also dropped, underlying the serious economic challenges facing the world's second biggest economy as it struggles to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic and related restrictions. The consumer price index, CPI, fell 0.8% in January, more than the 0.5% prediction from a poll by Reuters, after a 0.3% drop in December of 2023, data from the National Bureau of Labor Statistics showed. The decline is China's biggest drop since 2009. Now, if you look on YouTube, there is a ton of doomer headlines about how China's economy is collapsing and it's the next 2008 for China, and honestly, it's not, and it's not collapsing, but it is in a dicey spot that it will take some work and expert economic understanding in order to get out of. But when your economy is struggling and possibly going to have a significant downturn soon, and your populace is not sure what the next few years are going to look like, then it makes sense that they would not do things like upgrade iPhones or buy new cars or purchase more expensive houses or do things like upgrade mattresses. iPhones are in this very optional category where you can keep the one you have and it'll work fine for another year. So why would you upgrade one if there's a possibility that you may be laid off or take a pay cut or have some other economic issues befall you? Now, I said this reason was economic concerns and patriotism, and I feel like patriotism is kind of self-explanatory. America is a rival, both economically and politically, so the Chinese are supporting national Chinese businesses like Xiaomi and Huawei. And that kind of makes sense. I know plenty of people here in America that like to support good American brands. And really, that's what the Chinese are doing for their brands. So those are the reasons that Apple is struggling in China. I don't know if they'll be able to turn this around in China, or if this is just part of a larger downturn and Apple will just have to accept that sales are now permanently lower. But whatever happens, and as more reports come out, I promise to keep you informed. Thanks for watching.